It's Spoilerin time, and this week, hold on to your seats, folks. We're going to spoil The Office UK Episode 1. It's our new library show. We're getting into that to replace, well, we're done. It's not really replacing it. We're done with Dirk Gently. So we're going to be watching The Office UK. We're also going to talk about episodes 4 and 5 of the third season of True Detective. But of course, I am remiss. I am Tom Merritt. If you haven't met me, this show is where we take all the hard work we do on our other show, Cordkillers, about cord cutting, and watch some shows, and I talk about them with my good friend, Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, but most importantly, we have to, I guess, say pretty much nothing about the upcoming summer movie draft. No real update. We're about to do the movie draft tomorrow. We've got 5 teams. We're about to wedge in one more. And if you're not familiar, it's probably worth tuning in to twitch.tv/Night Attack tomorrow evening as we record this Tuesday night, so that you can watch us bid. And then we'll have, 2 or 3 days of everybody in the chat room gets to figure out what we overbid on, what we underbid on, as you make your own slate with the movie dollars at the prices we set. It's a lot of fun, and it gives us, here's the thing, guys. We're going to talk about movies every week. This is just a way for us to, sweeten the deal a little bit, have a little bit of opportunity to throw things in other people's faces, a little bit of guff talking.
Imagine us standing around talking about a movie, and then Brian leans in and how about we make this a little more interesting?
Yeah.
Well, let's invent an entire movie draft around it.
Do you know how I knew that the movie draft was truly special? I was pitching a TV thing in New York, and I was in Times Square, and I saw a giant billboard for Sex and the City 2, and I out loud, unironically said, I hope that movie makes a F-wording meat. And I realized that's the beauty of it, is it makes you care about movies you might otherwise not care about. It's so much fun.
Man, this lineup, I was actually talking with Commissioner Eileen Rivera the other day in our kitchen, and she's like, there are a lot of moneymakers in this lineup. There isn't the big tentpole that everybody's going to rush for, and then, okay, you can make it up with other stuff. There are a couple of tentpoles that everyone should rush for, and then a bunch of other big potential moneymakers. And the big question is going to be, can all these money-making potential movies live up to their potential? When there's that many of these movies, are people going to be going back to the theater more because of that? Should you pour all your money into Avengers Endgame, or is that a bad idea? Because there's also all of this other stuff out there, like Spider-Man Far From Home, and maybe The Lion King will be bad, but it's probably going to make some money. Dark Phoenix, Secret Life of Pets 2, Men in Black International's getting some buzz. I mean, it's just, the list goes on. There's some amazing movies out this year.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be definite big winners and big losers. That's usually what happens is it's like the contrast knob just gets turned up, and unless you're perfect, you're a bomb.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But like you said, Tuesday evening, if it hasn't already passed yet, go to twitch.tv/Night Attack around about 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be drafting away. All right. Let's talk about True Detective. Brian and I are back on the same page. Brian watched episodes 4 and 5. I'd already watched episode 4. I watched episode 5 last night. And I don't know about you, Brian, but at this point in True Detective's arc for this season, I am definitely having a different experience than season 1. It's not a bad experience. It's just a different experience. But whereas this point in season 1, I was all in on the mystery and trying to figure out, what are they talking about? Where are they headed? With this, I'm waiting for another shoe to drop, I feel like.
Here's the difference is in every previous season of True Detective, the mystery was the star of the story. Kind of don't care about the mystery in this one, but I do care about our main character. All I want to know is the connective dots between what happened in the 90s to now, and how did he lose his wife? How did he become estranged and strained with his children, which is a testament to number one, I think it's a smart move to make the primary focus just one person. Number two, I think that it's a testament to the acting of our main character. Also, I love the fact that unlike season 1, it wasn't like there was one guy that we liked and respected and another guy who was a total crap bag. In general, I think that our protagonist's partner is presented well. He certainly achieved political success after, you know, the initial story, and yet they don't use that as a wedge to make us resent him or want to not cheer for him. And I like the fact that they're both around as old men. Super, super convincing. Two old duffers on a porch scene. Like, the whole show could have been this. You could have blown my mind by saying that both actors are in their 40s or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever watched the post-show bonus content on HBO, but in the interview they talked about how they just put these guys on the porch and they had a scene set and then they filmed it and they were like, oh my God, that is 10 times better than what we wrote. Like, the presence that those guys brought to that scene and the electricity between them and the convincingness that they're two old men who have different demons to struggle with. One is like, I need to get my memory back. And the other's like, I don't want to have my memory back. I just want to chill. I want to kill time, and I'm real good at it.
And that moment when he says, hang out anytime, connect, let's go bowling, let's do this, just anything but this. What are you doing? And it felt just so unbelievably sincere. And the level of nuance they were able to convey a sense of deep respect between the two of them. And the fact that they never even elucidated what it was that, is it Hayes? Is that our main character? That Hayes did to offend his partner, and also made it very clear that it kind of doesn't matter, you know? And like he says, I guess I upset you. I'm really sorry, whatever it was. And and you can't even be mad at him because he doesn't even remember what it was that he did, you know? And
yeah, and you see the frustration and sadness of him realizing, like, wow, you really don't.
And meanwhile, like, Hayes, like, he already knows how broken he is. He's like, yeah, no, this is a thing. I'm doing my best to piece together what I can. You know, he's already got systems in place, like Memento style.
And it's a brilliant mechanism for telling this story, because what could be very clearly, and part of me was thinking, like, yeah, you can't tell him because you haven't told the audience yet, becomes convincing, like, but also you've convinced me that this person has Alzheimer's and doesn't remember everything, and it's perfectly legitimate to have him go, I need your help, I want to remember. And it's perfectly legitimate to have his partner go, well, I'm not going to tell you then if you don't even remember, because that's just going to make you feel worse.
The another surprise star of the show in I think it was episode 5 or 4 is how right they got the married couple with kids arguing. Mm-hmm. You know, there's almost a level of professionalism to it where it's like they know what's in and out of bounds. It's not like every, you know, screaming, throw dishes, whatever. Like that in real life is not often how those arguments go. Instead, they are couched in a particular set of boundaries, and then you get to the edge of it, and like a switch gets flipped. She's just like, yeah, you know what? Instead, can we just have sex? And then he's like, yes, we can. And
we can do that.
And not to define a right or a wrong way to do marriage, but I don't think I'm talking out of school to say, hey kids, that's a little bit what grown up life is like when you have a lifelong partnership with someone. Sometimes you both realize that this is going to be a fruitless exercise, and you decide to channel that energy somewhere else.
We've been down this road before, and we know what works. So,
like, well, one thing I know for now is we're not going to solve it right now, but you know what we can solve right now? I have an itch.
Yeah. And you do too, right? Great. I'm glad this all works out for everybody involved. They get so many of those things right. And the dinner with this partner where they're having the argument at the table, and you know, she storms off and he leans back and says, yeah, you have a lovely home. Like, gotta say something. Like, that felt like like, it's not a scene where everybody's embarrassed and, it's not over dramatic. It felt like a real argument, but still interesting because it still fits in with everything you know about these. It's a difficult trick in writing and execution and acting all coming together.
Yeah, and I would be so curious to know how close all of the words are to what was on the script, and how much latitude and freedom the talent is given to create those genuine moments. It's very curious to me the strange alchemy. There are different types of directors. There are directors that are like, no, these are the words that are on the page, and you're going to say, like the Coen brothers. I remember famously the guy with the thick Russian accent saying something. Go to he says the Pancake House, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Oh, well, there's a typo. It says go to Pancake's house," and it's like there are no typos. Say it as it's written. And so, and that's their style and that's what worked. But when you're dealing with the level of talent that you could see, these actors are so in themselves and capable of such subtle nuance. I wonder how much of it organically came out of in the moment, giving them more room.
Because the brilliance of the writing isn't in the dialogue, right? The brilliance of the writing is having created situations that lead you to know the characters well enough that the scene you're watching plays legitimately. You're like, I know they've had this argument before, and I know that he doesn't do well in relationships, and I know that they have a strained relationship that they're bringing. It's like all of these things that the writers have created, these scenes have built up to me believing this moment, and then it all hinges on the actors delivering a performance that convinces me that they're really living that moment. And it would be really interesting to know, did they take the writing, the dialogue and execute it that way, which is almost a more difficult trick, or did they give the actors the freedom, like, we know how to get the best out of you, just say it the way that feels right, because then it'll feel right.
Yeah. At any rate, it's way good. I feel like it's not as surprisingly good the way season 1 was.
Right.
I never bought into the hate hype that season 2 was bad. I think season 2 just suffered from too many protagonists. But season 3 is a really delightful, very simple meditation. It's like they wanted to make it clear that they were getting back to their roots, just a little bit of supernatural mysticism, more focused on the importance of belief than in any actual, like, it doesn't matter whether or not, this blood sacrifice, if there was one, was done to a supernatural ends. What matters is somebody believed that there was a supernatural end to it.
No, there's a mystery to what happened to her, to the girl, and it's stoked with her call, where she talks about the pink room, and you hear the things like, she always talked about being a princess and stuff, from the witness testimony. That's stirring a little bit of that season 1 pot of like, okay, there might be a Yellow King thing hanging off in the background here, and I'm fine with that. But I'm more interested in Mahershala Ali, in Hayes's mystery. That's the central mystery: is, can he put this together? So, can he remember what happened?
How much of it, and maybe this is a demographic thing, but like, everything in this story is fantasy, except for the very strong likelihood that you, Tom Merritt, me, Brian Brushwood, are going to get old enough to have a Detective Hayes-like moment in our own life. And I wonder if that, like, if that is the anchor of infatuation that I have with this story, of so. What that will be like.
My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and it was heartbreaking and difficult for her and scary for her. And so I think about that a lot while I'm watching this.
Yeah. So enjoying it? Question mark.
Yeah. No, I am. I'm definitely enjoying it. So it's not an easy watch, but it's definitely an enjoyable watch.
As always, we'll keep in touch over the next week and decide if we want to do 1 episode or 2 episodes going forward.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to The Office UK. I don't know. This may be the dozenth time that I have watched this episode, and a testament to this series is that I still found things not fresh, but things that startled me, that I'm like, oh, right. I'd forgotten about that element of it, or I'd forgotten about this particular bit of uncomfortableness, because, the prank where he tells her she's fired sticks out in your head. The sort of the Jell-O mold stapler thing sticks out in your head because they also do that in The Office US. But there's some side point. I almost entirely forgot about the fact that there's a new employee being shown around as sort of the trope of this, and that they call out the documentarians multiple times as being in the room with them.
Yeah. This is going to be really challenging for me, Tom, because like I just finished, 7 seasons of the U.S. Office.
Oh, you finally wrapped that, huh?
These archetypes are well established and have black and white definitions. And, this skinny kid that is clearly playing, the Dwight of this world, and this and even like I know we said the words Martin Freeman at some point, but it's weird to be all like, is Holmes, what's going on, like that, and wait, Andy's Jim, what? I don't know. I will be really curious to see if I can come around and enjoy this for what it is, because right now I'm just trapped in comparing it to what it's not, and what it's not is the Office that I grew up with.
Right, and of course it's all context dependent, right? I'm sure there are people who grew up or watched The Office UK first, and then the US one feels like an abomination to them because of that, right? It's all what is most blazoned in your mind, because I think they're both good. What'll be fascinating to me from this side of the mic is to see which parts do melt and you go, you know what, that's a really good take on that archetype. That's a really different character that we didn't get. And which parts just don't. And you're like, gosh, I really wish it was Dwight Schrute. I'm not saying that'll be the one, but something like that.
Sure. Well, and I almost want to reserve judgment, because there's a bunch of things I want to have a hot take on, a bunch of things, but I realize none of it will be fair, because all of it will be me comparing. It's like comparing the last few seasons of Star Trek: The Next Generation to the first season, the first episode of the original series. And that's not even allowable.
Well, and I have not watched every episode multiple times, but I have watched this all the way through once. And I know it sort of solidifies that this first episode is definitely not the best of the episodes. So, this will be an interesting different journey.
I think this is a fair thing to say, and you can either sign off on this or not. It's strange to me, because everybody is speaking, with an English accent. I'm guessing a lot of it read as awkward to the English audience watching it, and yet that little bit of exotic foreign accent, I think, short-circuited a lot of those cringy feelings for me. So I didn't have it. I didn't find him as unpleasant as I'm sure he was meant, or as native viewers found it.
The one that I will definitely say did not work, that magic did not work for me, was when he is fooling her that he's laid her off. I was like, I know what happens. I'm like, I don't even want to watch. I almost want to fast forward through this because it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I guess I didn't find it as uncomfortable. But then again, I mean, it's tough when you've already seen all the jokes. Like, you can enjoy it in that, Dark Tower Echo universe kind of way of like, oh, how interesting that they're playing on that and that archetype and so on. But also, I mean, it's also really weird to go from a 16:9 world to a 3:4, to go from a really well-designed set that maximized visual interface to very clearly they just rented an office, and all of the shots feel flat and shallow, and I don't know.
I have learned, though, that from now on, if I'm going to tell you something unpleasant, I'm going to tell you in a British accent.
Cheerio, mate.
Sorry, Brian, but I lost all the money.
Oh, the Patreon funds, was it?
I'm afraid I embezzled them. Who knew? All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Like Brian said, we'll be watching at least one more episode of True Detective and next week, and The Office UK episode 2. We'll see what happens then. Talk to you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.